What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries.
I think what makes an idea big is that potential for its impact in the community.
It's novel, it's unique, it's challenging, it's exciting.
Following the Clinton administration, I got a job at UC Berkeley as a special assistant to the Chancellor for Science and Technology. And it was at Berkeley that I came up with the idea of supporting student-led initiatives.
Undergraduate students are rarely recognized as producing innovative, cutting-edge ideas.
The Big Ideas program seed funds and encourages student innovation for a better planet.
So Engineers Without Borders at Cal is a student group. We connect engineers here in the United States with people in the developing world.
In multiple third world countries, there's a recycling issue in terms of there's garbage and plastic just strewn all over the place, and the only way that they can get rid of it is either a garbage dump or just officially burning it.
Many times you see shacks with just tarp covering over in the high rainy season, leaking in the house. So if we could connect the dots between something that they have an abundance of and something they have a lack for, then we could really create a sustainable solution.
A couple students got together back in 1989 and saw the need on the street that people were underserved, and so they went out with a suitcase and filled it with medical supplies and went out to the streets and helped people in the streets.
A lot of the community members probably are so removed from the experience of the homeless that they couldn't really care for them at all. And I think the homeless, as prevalent as they are, as visible as they are in certain parts of the town, are pretty overlooked on the city level. We're able to kind of just walk around and assess the need and to be inspired by what we see.
Just the passion that everybody has here is palpable, and you can't leave a suitcase clinic night and not just get fired up.
So we were signed up in a class called Design for Sustainable Communities. This was back in the spring of 2007 with Professor Ashok Gadgil.
The potential for the hot water project is enormous. Everybody needs hot water. Even in warm climate countries, people love to take a hot water bath.
Hence, our water heater, which is completely solar, provides a green technology that provides clean and safe hot water.
Back to Duke was started during our last semester in school, about a couple months before graduation, and I actually had an offer to go into consulting in San Francisco. Alex had an offer to go into investment banking in New York, and we're sitting in Alan Ross's business ethics class our last semester, and he brought up this fact that he had read that you could potentially grow gourmet mushrooms entirely on recycled coffee grounds.
And it was a lecture of about 100 people. Yeah, I was intrigued by it. I thought it was a really cool concept. I knew nothing about mushrooms, knew nothing about agriculture. Sure enough, Nick Hill is the only other crazy guy that goes up to the professor and asks the same exact question.
So we ended up meeting up and kind of turned Alex's fraternity kitchen into a community science experiment, just testing it out, and ended up growing one test bucket, like literally a paint bucket of mushrooms in Alex's fraternity kitchen. And we'd come back from spring break and we'd take that one bucket over to Chez Panisse, knowing nothing about mushrooms, like, hey, what's the best restaurant in town? And Alice Waters happens to be there, and we kind of tell her, hey, we're trying to grow mushrooms more sustainably on coffee grounds. And she gets her head chef, Cal, over. He sautés up some on the spot. And he's like, oh, this is delicious. So by the end of it, Alex and I kind of looked at each other and said, we have got to do this. It's just something, it has to be done in our community.
It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of it doesn't take a 5-year PhD research project in order to do some of these things. It's a step in the process, and I think Big Ideas is a great way to get a wide spectrum of students across campus working to understand that we can solve challenges.
So with the Blum Center and its priority to really connect students with the developing world, I heard about the Big Ideas program, and it was brought to our attention as a group, and we thought, hey, this would be a really great opportunity to kind of get the word out about our projects and see if we can get some support. And
the funds from the Big Ideas grants is pretty much going to be used towards the research of the project, because we're going to need a lot of tools. It's also going to go towards the prototyping phase of it, because we need to go out, buy materials, construct this thing, and test it.
Cal really has that perspective that it's not just all in the classroom. Things need to be applied, and you need to connect the dots between what you're learning in the classroom and in the outside world.
The idea behind Big Ideas was to recognize how working at a very micro scale, working on what seems to be a tiny problem, perhaps in our backyard, can have quite widespread consequences.
Yeah, so the Big Ideas grant, we applied for specifically dental because that's what we wanted to expand on.
Dentistry is really, it's extremely important for the homeless population, and not just for the reasons that are immediately obvious.
No employer will hire you if you're missing your front 2 teeth. Doesn't matter. You could be graveyard shift janitor down in the dungeon, and the boss will not hire you because people are stigmatized by a certain look.
And you can see, like, when they walk out, just a new sense of hope that kind of fills them. I'm convinced that this is sort of a cascading thing, where one thing can lead to many unintended effects.
Having it was like one of the best things for our project. It really got us off the ground at a point where we needed that extra inspiration and financial assistance to do it.
Yeah, knowing that the campus is supporting projects like this and that you have access to these resources has been very instrumental for us.
We first came across the idea, we had no idea what we're trying to do with it. It was kind of a very far-flung idea, trying to grow mushrooms on coffee grounds. We had no background in it, and had this wild dream of starting a mushroom farm up, but we kind of needed, in some sense, that validation from our community too, that this was something that people wanted to support.
Big Ideas gave us a $5,000 grant to really get us off the ground. We were able to materialize what we had put on paper and put so much thought into.
And since then, we've grown from a fraternity kitchen to a 300 square foot warehouse to a 1,200 square foot warehouse to this new 10,000 square foot facility behind us. But honestly, it really all started off with that one $5,000 grant we got from Bears Breaking Boundaries, because that was literally the initial capital, the only capital we had to get this thing started off as 2 college kids.
I always wanted to be able to give back in some way using my research knowledge and basically all of the benefits that I've gained with my education, and be able to take that back and do something positive with it.
Just the fact that Big Ideas existed and seemed willing to fund a project like this gave us hope, because our budget for dental is actually like under $200 a semester, and we saved the residents of Berkeley like probably $50,000 to $100,000 just through the services we have.
It's really interesting for us. Like, we never walk in any cafe again or drink a cup of coffee and look at it the same way, because literally all that waste that we're interacting with every single day that was being thrown away has been the foundation for the jobs, the income, the impact that this company's made.
Berkeley is truly an extraordinary place. It's a place with intellectual vibrancy, with such a extraordinary galaxy of talent in every field that you want to touch.
Taking stuff that they're learning in the classroom and then being able to apply it towards a real-world solution is critical.
The majority of us get a lot of extra satisfaction out of developing a big idea from science and then implementing it. And I think that's good for the world, I think it's good for the university, and I think it's good for society.
I think what makes student-led innovation distinctive and different than traditional academic research is that students, precisely because they're still in the mode of learning, are willing to think outside the box.
Anybody else looks at used coffee grounds and thinks waste. These students looked at used coffee grounds and thought, opportunity.
Students don't know what they can't do yet. So, they may be willing to tackle a problem that a more experienced researcher would say, oh, that's really difficult.
We should disabuse ourselves of the idea that all smarts are with the professors. Students are just as smart, they're just younger, that's all.
Big Ideas is much more than a grant. It's really investing in college students that have these amazing things that are flowing in their head that they want to figure out how to make tangible and how to make business out of it. And it ends up being much more than a grant because it gives you that confidence to go forward. The fact that there's other people in the room and other people at Cal that are reviewing this and thinking, hey, you should go for this.
The power of the small grant is that it allows students to experiment earlier in their lives. They don't need to wait to complete a PhD and get a faculty appointment to try something new. I think that's very important. Otherwise, we waste a whole kind of generation just waiting for the credentials to do something that they have some capacity to do earlier.
What makes an idea big?
If it's sustainable, first of all, if it can keep on being what it is and growing.
It is a big idea that takes on something that seems to be an obvious problem, and yet there seem to be no obvious solutions.
Its uniqueness and its power to make change in the world.
That's what makes a big idea. It's not being bogged down and being told, oh, you can't do this, so you don't try.
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries and it really kind of surpasses what was already there and sets a precedent for something new.